Sorry, talking out loud. Oops, let's start at the beginning, not the end. Can y'all see this slide? Did they show up on your side there?
Yes. Yes.
Yes. So I'm going to go through this kind of quickly, and maybe this is the first time you're hearing this, and maybe this is a repeat of stuff we've talked about already. If this is the first time you're hearing all this, try not to get all overloaded with what we're going through, because some of you have been working with me on this material for, well, a couple of years now, I think we can actually say. So, so if this is the first time you're hearing this, please don't think like you have to know all of this in order to do what we're going to do tonight. But I think it contexts what I'd like to look at. Um, we've looked at before that each breath has four parts. And so this is where we're going to start tonight with a little centering. So if you'd like, I will read this as we go through it. Find a comfortable seat for yourself and let's practice four-part breath. And then we're going to talk a little and then we're going to do some more movement using four-part breathing. So when you're ready, go ahead and find a comfortable seat for yourself. And as you find your comfortable seat, you might start by moving a little, maybe a little seated cat-cow, letting your spine bend backwards and letting your spine bend forwards. You might even lean a little over to the left side and a little to the right side. All these movements are diagnostic, checking in with yourself. How's your body showing up tonight? A little twisting, maybe take left hand over to right knee and gaze back over your right shoulder. And then you can unwind this and head over to the other side. So these are the 6 movements of the spine. Let's go through them again. You can bend your spine backwards and forwards. Try just moving your spine slowly forwards and back a couple of times. And remember that each breath has 4 parts. So as you're moving, you're either holding your breath out or you're inhaling, or you're holding your breath in or you're exhaling. And so try a few more of these slow movements and see if you can feel where you are in the breath. You don't have to line the breath up to the movement. It's not like a vinyasa practice. We're going to do side bending next. So remember, you pause before you inhale, and then the air comes in. And then you pause at the end of the inhale, and then you exhale. And so looking for the pauses. Where's the place at the end of the exhale where the breathing stops? The air motion stops. You also find that point at the end of the exhale. We're going to twist again. Remember, 4 parts to each breath. So again, you don't have to line it up. There's still a pause after the inhale before you exhale. And there's a pause after the exhale before you inhale again. And then when you're ready, go ahead and come on back to center. Maybe close your eyes for a few moments. If closing your eyes doesn't feel safe or comfortable where you're at, how about soft gaze out on the floor in front of you? Maybe don't look at your screen, just so you're not looking at pixels. And so every breath has 4 parts. Wait in the breath cycle until the next time you're exhaling. And at the end of the exhale, just let the breathing stop. So the air motion stops for a moment. There's a pause. We allow a pause. And then when you inhale, slow inhale. Try not to vacuum, hold the breath into you. And then at the top of the inhale, there's another pause. There's a receiving. And then we slowly let the exhale happen. As the exhale leaves you, eventually find the pause and just rest there, settle there, like a leaf rests on the ground after it falls off the tree. And then you slowly inhale. Try not to rush it. It's quiet. So try not to make sound as you inhale. There's a pause at the end of the inhale, receiving. And it's a gentle exhale. It's not a strong movement of air. It's just allowing it to leave you. A few more breaths. Pausing And then inhaling, pausing, and then exhaling. As you do that a little bit longer, can your lips stay resting together with your teeth apart so you're not biting your bottom teeth against your top teeth? Each breath has 4 parts. Can you feel how the breathing goes from being not in motion to in motion? And then eventually the motion slows down and stops. And then the direction changes. Lips resting, teeth apart. Maybe even in one of your next pauses, swallow. And you feel your tongue goes to the roof of your mouth and it stays there at the end of swallowing. You might want to swallow again. And can you let your tongue stay up on the roof of your mouth at the end of swallowing? Each breath has 4 parts. Pause and allow, and then pause to receive. 30 seconds more of this. I'm going to stop talking so you can have 30 seconds in silence with your own breathing. Closing that 30-second bracket. If you like, hum your next exhale. Create a vibration as you hum. You might try that over the next couple exhales. So humming to create vibration. Any note. It's not singing, it's humming. Creating vibration with lips together, teeth apart. Maybe hum with your tongue resting on the roof of your mouth. There's still the pause after the humming, and then the pause after its subsequent inhale. You can let go of humming, and you stay breathing in 4 parts. And when you're ready, you can let your eyes open and come on back. And as you come on back, I want to check in. Thumbs up, thumbs down. How you feel after that little centering we did just there. Awesome. Thanks. Okay, let's talk a little, and then we're going to move a little more. So as we're talking, if you need to move yourself around, you can do that. If you want to make yourself more comfortable, you can do that as well. Also, if you have any questions at any point, you can unmute yourself. I'm going to put a chart up. Some of you have seen this before. This is a timeline of the yogic practices, of the timeline of yoga. Modern yoga is down here at the bottom, the very bottom. This is where we get sun salutations, and modern asana practices down here. But if we go back, the period of time I would like to look at is what's called the Upanishadic age back here. And this is like 3,000 to 3,500 years ago. These texts were written. The texts are called Upanishads, and the word Upanishad means to sit nearby. Like you would sit nearby a teacher that has some skill or some mastery or understanding, and that teacher would communicate. They would communicate to you what that teaching is or what the understandings are. There are lots of Upanishadic texts, and there are 4 great sayings. They're called the Chatur Mahavakyas, 4 great sayings that are pulled, each one from a different Upanishad. And so here are these four great sayings. And the one that we've been looking at recently is from what's called the Mandukya Upanishad. There's the word Mandukya, and the word Mandukya refers to, like, if you have a Manduka yoga mat, if you look at the symbol for your Manduka yoga mat, it's a little frog. And so Mandukya refers to a frog. And what does this have to do? The idea of the Mandukya is, what's a frog do? It jumps, it leaps from one place to another. So it said this particular Upanishad has all the teachings that you would need to make a big leap from where you are now to this realized consciousness, or to this enlightened consciousness, if you will. And the saying that we've been looking at from this particular Upanishad says that Ayam Atma Brahma, or this Atman is Brahman. We use the word Atman to describe the soul, if you will, from a yogic sense. Really, it's describing Atman as a piece of Brahman. Brahman is the bigger state of, well, everything. Everything in the universe fits into this concept of Brahman. And Atman, we could say, is a little piece of Brahman, a little piece of everything that resides directly in a body, in you. And so we could call that your soul, if you will. So this particular great saying, this Chatur Mahavakya, is saying that the soul that's in our body is a part of this greater, bigger piece of everything. Everybody okay with this so far? Is this making sense? Awesome. And so let's go to the next one. And so if we look at the very first two verses of this Mandukya Upanishad, it's a short one. There's only 12 verses in this one. And the first two verses, the first two parts of it, say the following. The first one says, Om, like when you chant Om, Om, or Om. Aum Aum stands for the supreme reality. What's the supreme reality? That's Brahman. That's everything. Om is a symbol for what was, what is, and what shall be. So everything on the timeline, what was, that's past, what is, that's now, and what will be, that's future. So Om stands for everything. It represents also what lies beyond past, present, and future. So before the past is Om, and after the future is still Om. And of course, right now is also represented by Om. The second verse of this Upanishad is where we get this Chatur Mahavakya from. It says Brahman. Brahman is everything. Brahman is all. And the Atman, the self or the soul inside of us, is Brahman. It's part of that. And then it goes on to say, consciousness or the self or the Atman has four different states of consciousness. And so, what are these four different states of consciousness? We can see this represented in the Om symbol itself. The four different states of consciousness are: one, the waking state. Hopefully that's it right now. You haven't fallen asleep. So if you're awake right now, you're in the first state of consciousness. And this is where our senses move outside of our body into the world around us. So consciousness moving out of the body into the material world. That's waking consciousness. The second state of consciousness is called dreaming sleep, or the dreaming state of consciousness. And this is a state of consciousness where our attention is turned inwards. So rather than out into the world through our senses, like our eyes or our ears, we're now turning our sense of consciousness into ourselves, turning our awareness inwards. And then the third state of consciousness is called the no dreaming sleep, or the no dreaming state. This is deep sleep, or a state where we're neither dreaming nor desiring. Desiring refers to going out of the body. Dreaming refers to going into the body. And so what if there's a state of consciousness or a state of presence where we're neither going out nor in? We could say this is just awareness. And it's an awareness of being aware. We are aware that we are aware in this state. As opposed to waking state, we are aware that our attention is going out of us. dreaming state, like when you go to sleep and you have dreams, all the activity is inside of you and you're aware of your dreaming happening. Well, what if you were aware, but you weren't out in the world desiring or inside dreaming? So that's this third state. This is called prajna, prajna state. Now, there's also this fourth state of consciousness, and this is called the Turiya state. Other words that you might hear to describe this are Purusha or Atman, like we've been using. Another one of my favorites is Laya, which is from the Hatha Yoga Pradipika, and this refers to absorption, where you are completely absorbed in consciousness. You're so absorbed in consciousness that there's no awareness of awareness. There's just awareness. And that's a little mind twister there. From the Yoga Sutras, we get the term samadhi or samadhi, as you might have heard it said. And then another one of my favorite ones also comes from the Hatha Yoga Pradipika, and this is called the Sahajavasta state, or Sahaja, referring to natural, the natural state of being. Um, Here's another big chart. If you've never seen this chart before, don't freak out. We can spend a lot of time looking at what these words are. This is Sankhya philosophy. And so in all of the great Hindu systems, all of the great systems of logic and knowing that come out of philosophy that come out of India, they're all paired. And so yoga, the physical practice, has a philosophical practice that's twinned with it, that it's based on, and that's called Sankhya. The word Sankhya means list, and here we have a list. We have a list of things. It's said that if you were an enlightened being, you would look out into the universe, and anything you see could be found somewhere on this list. Look down, look at your physical body. Where's your physical body on this list? That's over here. That's in these things called the Mahabhutas, or the great elements, because your body's made of earth element and water element, and there's fire going on inside of you, like neurons conducting electricity, or digestion happening in your gut system. Those are metabolisms happening. That's fire. And then there's air, and air is partly oxygen, but it's also carbon dioxide. And we need both oxygen and carbon dioxide to be healthy. Carbon dioxide is not just a toxin, it's actually something that you need to have in you to run your biological processes, regulating them. And then the other of our five elements is space. Your physical body is in a place. It's not over there, it's over here. It requires a space to have your physical body. And that's the fifth element that we have. So space, air, fire, water, and earth. Those five great elements are put together to be your physical body. And everything else that's on this list is something about you that maybe you can't quite put your finger on. You can't actually touch it. So we say the physical body is this stuff down here that you can actually touch. But then there's things about you that are just as real that you can't really put your finger on, like your thoughts. Your thoughts are here on the chart right over here in the manas, or the mind, we could call it. You have energy states. You have balanced energy state, or you have increasing energy state, or decreasing energy state. That's these things right here called the gunas. You don't need to memorize this. I'm just putting it out as review for those of you that have heard before, and also to drop some words in your ear and in your brain that you might hear on the yogic path. Another piece that you might relate to is your identity, the things you like and the things you don't like, the things you say yes to or the things you don't say yes to. That's here in the ahamkara, the I maker. And then there's another part of your subtle body, part of you that's real but that you can't touch. That's called your buddhi. And buddhi is awareness. Buddhi is what we're cultivating in our hatha yoga practice, our ability to be aware of what's going on while we're moving around. Look here at the very top of our chart. In our causal body, the thing that caused you to be, here is Brahman. Remember, we said at the beginning, Brahman is the term for everything. And it said that Brahman has two fundamental qualities to everything that's in Brahman. One, things that change, like your physical body. Doesn't this change over time? Things that change, we put under the category of prakriti or prakriti. So everything under prakriti changes. Your awareness changes. Sometimes you have strong awareness, sometimes it's weak. Your ability of yes and no, of what you like and don't like, can change. You might have liked something a couple years ago that you don't like as much now. You might not have liked something in the past that you do like now. Your energy states can change, or at least which ones are expressing. Your sense of feeling balanced can change. Sometimes you're out of balance, sometimes you're in balance. Sometimes you're out of balance and you're going up to a high energy state, or sometimes you're out of balance and you're going down to a lower energy state. Your mind changes, your thoughts changes. And does your mind always tell you the truth? Doesn't your mind tell you sometimes things are false, or can't you have ideas in your brain and your thinking that aren't really true, that aren't clear, true ideas, real ideas, we could say. So everything on the Prakriti side of the chart changes. Brahman has qualities, things that change and things that don't. And the term we have for the things that don't change is Purusha or Purusha. Purusha is the goal of yoga, you could say, or at some points in the timeline, because this is the timeline of yoga, yoga's changed over time. At some points along this timeline, the goal of yoga was to realize Purusha, to understand the part of us that does not change. Purusha is also known as Surya, or this fourth state of consciousness. A state of consciousness that is unchanging or is always the same. In the Om symbol, if you've seen the Om symbol before, this Om symbol we could say is representative of the four states of consciousness. Waking consciousness, we could say maybe is right here. This is when we're awake and we're out in the world. We could also say maybe this one is waking consciousness. So one of these curves might represent waking consciousness. Another curve would represent dreaming consciousness. And then we've got this other thing where we're not awake and we're not asleep. We could say maybe this curve over here, this curve over here is representative of the non-dreaming sleep, the part where our consciousness is not directed out of our body, not directed inwards, but it's just present, it's just aware. And the Turiya state is represented by the dot. So the dot up here, the thing that is unchanging, the thing that is consistent is right here. Now, there's this other curve here. And this curve we could say represents the veil of Maya. The word Maya means illusion, something that's not real. So we can say that there is something covering our ability to recognize what is unreal. And so what the yogis were interested in is how do they navigate these states of consciousness and overcome this idea of Maya to get closer to experiencing that which never changes. And so that we could say is the goal of yoga. If we look back at our chart of Sankhya here, can you see how the dot's up here? The dot's up here in this part, whereas all the stuff that changes is down here below this here. So that is our states of consciousness, and our sense of, from the Mandukya Upanishad, is how can we use this as a way of realizing the goal of yoga. Now, there's this book I'm reading. Oh, it's out on the table in the dining room. I can't show it to you right now. There's this book that I'm reading. It's called the Principle Upanishad. It's a big fat tome of what's the exposition on these major Upanishads that are out there. It's said that there's 108 Upanishads and there's 10 of them that are the major Upanishads. And the Mandukya is one of the 10. It's also one of the most recent ones. It's not an older one. So it's a kind of a summary, if you will. And remember, the point of the Mandukya is from where you are now, like a little frog, you can jump. And the Mandukya takes you right to what you need to know to get the goal, notice air quotes, goal of yoga there. And so, what is the goal of yoga? Swami Radhakrishnan, in this book, The Principle of Upanishads, writes, it is present. What is it? Turiya. Turiya, the dot. This is present. Even when we are immersed in the activities of the waking world, remember, consciousness going out of the body. So Turiya is present even when we're immersed in the waking world or lost in the unconsciousness of sleep. Man's highest good, human's highest good consists in entering into this, entering into Turiya, the self, making it the center of one's life, making this understanding of Turiya the center of our life, instead of just dwelling on the surface. It's saying here's something like, if we're not really looking towards Turiya, we're just on the surface of what's possible, the surface of totality. So this is what we're going to do today. We're going to play with consciousness a little bit, and we're going to play with our 4-part breathing. We're going to use this as a way of resting in it. And so to tie this back to where we started, to the 4-part breath, this pause that happens before we inhale, this resting state, is present even after we inhale and we get to the top of the inhale, and then we come back to it. We go away from it and we come back to it. So what if we use today in our practice this pause, this settling, as a way of recognizing what's always there? That pause is there, and we build the inhale and exhale experience on top of that pause. And if you really want to go out there a little bit, Turiya, it's also in the pause at the top of the inhale. And Turiya, it's also present while we're inhaling. And Turiya, it's also present while we're exhaling. So we're looking for the thing that never changes, that's constant while we're changing, while we're going through the breathing. So I'm going to pause there and come on back. And I want to just open it up for those of you that are here with me while we're recording this. Any thoughts on this? Any questions? Any comments? Anything you'd like to speak into before we do the moving part of our experience tonight? Nothing. In the ethers. Okay. Okie dokie. Thumbs up, thumbs down. Does this make sense? Is this giving you something to work with? So, I love that answer. So, a couple of thumbs up. Yeah. Okay, let's go into practice and see what happens with this. Let me adjust my camera and give me yourself a little sit after talking there. We're going to start on our back. So if you're already on your back, look at you. You're already in the pause before we begin. So take your time. Make a comfortable space for yourself on your back. And as you make your way down onto your back, the breath cycle continues. It's still pause, inhale, pause, exhale. A lot of times when I hear people talk about the breath cycle, they start the breath cycle with the inhale. But really, that's not the first thing. You were alive before you took your first inhale. When you were gestating inside your mama, there was livingness happening, growingness was happening. Pause existed before we inhale. So as you settle in on your back and as you bring yourself into a comfortable position, choices could be maybe bend your knees and place your feet on the floor with knees bent. Or you could straighten your knees. You might also drape your knees over a bolster if you'd like to put a cushion behind them. Having your knees a little bent when you're laying on your back helps to put your hip flexors, specifically your psoas muscles, on slack. They're not pulled tight. And the psoas has a fascial, has a connective tissue relationship to your respiratory diaphragm. Respiratory diaphragm is your primary breathing muscle inside your rib cage, right at the very bottom. It's shaped kind of like a shower cap or a jellyfish. It goes from the front of your ribs around the sides, around to the back, connects along your spine. After your next exhale, give yourself the pause. And when you inhale, just say to yourself, you're using your respiratory diaphragm to take that inhalation. A muscle is contracting and shortening to inhale. And then you pause. And when you exhale, the contraction, the stiffness in your respiratory diaphragm softens and the breath leaves you. So the inhale contracts the muscle inside of you that causes you to breathe. And the exhale relaxes and unstiffens that muscle. Now, rest your hands on your belly. And if you place your hands on your belly as you inhale, hopefully you might notice your belly expands or gets bigger, kind of relaxes and expands. And then when you exhale, your belly gets smaller. You might even feel it stiffen or contract under your fingers, under your palms. So inhaling expands the belly out of your body. And then you pause. And then exhaling, your belly gets smaller and moves back into you. And you pause again. What happens on the surface of your body is the opposite of what's happening with your respiratory diaphragm inside your body. When the belly expands and unstiffens, the respiratory diaphragm inside is contracting. And when the surface of your belly gets smaller and then stiffens to get the rest of the air out, the opposite's happening inside it. So there's a bit of a paradox. Maybe imagine when you're inhaling, your diaphragm is stiffening when your belly is softening. When you're exhaling, your belly is stiffening and the respiratory diaphragm is unstiffening. You might choose to hook your fingers. Not everybody likes this, but if you take your fingertips and find your lower ribs, and kind of like if your fingers were cold and you were going to curl your fingertips into your palm, let your rib cage be like your palm. And can you gently curl your fingertips up and inside under your ribs? Careful if you have fingernails, don't stab yourself. But if you kind of take your fingers and you hook them up and inside your ribs, under your ribs, and when you inhale, when you feel the margins of the respiratory diaphragm stiffening, so you feel the tissues inside up under the ribs stiffening when you inhale. And when you exhale, those muscles unstiffen and soften. You take your fingers, you're really trying to curl them up underneath inside of you. So and you might try it a little closer to the side or closer to the front. If you try to do that at the place where your left and right ribs meet at the bottom, that might not work because your belly muscles are there. So if you go just a little down and around, as you inhale, can you feel the respiratory diaphragm stiffen? And as you exhale, can you feel it unstiffen? Now, you might not find the sensations you experience to be pleasant. So don't hurt yourself and don't tolerate discomfort. Every breath has 4 parts, and it starts with the pause. So before your next inhale, pretend you're like wiping the dry erase board clean. And then let the inhale happen on top of the pause. And then there's a pause at the top of the inhale. And then the exhale happens. And then you rest again. A little bit longer. Lips together, teeth apart. Maybe swallow to help the tongue find its resting home on the roof of the mouth. When the tongue is resting on the roof of the mouth, the back of the tongue creates a bit of a wall or a divider. So the throat space is a different chamber from the mouth space. The breathing happens behind the tongue and the throat. The next time you're resting in the pauses, maybe count slowly to 3 or to 5 to yourself. And when you start the next inhale, try not to gasp the inhale. Kind of happen quietly. Same thing after the inhale and the pause. Can you rest there and receive? When you start the exhale, try not to like crunch the muscles tight quickly so the exhale starts with a force of air. Let the pause be a little longer before you inhale and before you exhale. We'll start moving in just a moment. See if you can find this in stillness before we go on. Every breath has 4 parts. Lips together, teeth apart, tongue on the roof of the mouth. When we get stressed, when our nervous system is sympathetically activated, when we're in low or high degrees of fight or flight, we tend to make the breath move faster. And for me, I find in my body, I lose the pauses. For me, I more often lose pause after the inhale. So I blur my inhale into my exhale. Study yourself. Where do you think you might lose your pause? Do you lose the pause after the inhale or after the exhale? Neither is right or wrong. Buddhi. We want to notice things. We want to become aware of things. When you're ready, you can keep the 4 part breathing. You can lower your legs, maybe remove the bolster if it's behind your knees. Lower your legs to the floor. Snow angel your arms out to the side and past your head. Stretch yourself really long, like you just got up from a super delicious nap. Stretch yourself long and then relax. We're going to do that again. We're going to do a little differently. This time, stretch your hands and your feet in opposite directions. So you make the bones get super long away from your torso. Now keep reaching and squeeze your legs and arms muscles as you're reaching. So reaching and squeezing and breathing. And then let that relax. Called pendiculation. One more. So when you're ready, reach the limbs long. Reach and squeeze the muscles while you're reaching the limbs. Keep breathing if you can, 4 parts. And then relax. We're going to do that a third time. Make sure you're fully relaxed before you do it again. And again, hands and feet go in opposite direction. Maybe go in an X shape this time with your arms and legs. And so you reach the bones long and then keep reaching while you squeeze the muscles around the bones. Keep breathing if you can, 4 parts. Don't clench the teeth. And then let that also. Bring your arms and your legs back down. Lift your feet up. Bring your knees in towards your belly and catch your knees with your hands. Real slow rocking side to side. Did you hold your breath while you brought your legs in? And if you did hold your breath, did you hold your breath in or did you hold your breath out? Easy rocking. We're going to go into a twisting Kriya next. So in your own time, let go of your knees. Bring your arms out to T position and slowly both knees head over towards the floor to the left side before rising up. And then over to the floor to the right side before rising up. You can let your legs go a little bit further each time. Maybe even let them touch all the way down before you pick them back up. And then return to the other side. Next time your knees are heading over to the left side, so you get a good long lengthening of the right side body with knees over to the left side. Go ahead and sweep your arms past you. Let's call it climb a rope. So you reach one hand away and then reach the other hand away. So it's like hand over hand climbing up a rope. If you like, one or both knees, straighten them off to the side. So now your body's in the shape of the letter L. And with your one or two knees straightened off to the side, reach your arms down. What's that feel like? Maybe pendiculate, reach the limbs long and squeeze the muscles while you're reaching. And then soften, let the arms come down. Bend the knees first, just the top knee, let it pick back up. Once the top knee's back up, the bottom knee should just follow along. And then arms out at T position, take your knees again over to the right and then back up and slowly over to the left. As you do that, can you keep breathing in 4 parts? And also notice, what's it feel like going to the right? What's it feel like going to the left? Do you perceive differences in each side's sensation? Remember, our task is to learn how to see. We want to notice little details if we can. Next time your knees are going over to the other side, the side that you've not yet held, for me, it's over to the right. You can pause with your knees on that side. And with your knees over on that side, snow angel the arms out to the side and up past your head again. Maybe climb up line. Like if you were actually holding a same, face each other. As you reach left arm away, let the arms relax, keeping your knees on this side. You might straighten one bottom knee or the top knee, or even both knees off to the side. So you're now in a shape of a letter L with your legs reading that way. You can go ahead and reach on around the cylinders of the bone while you breathe. Then soften your squeeze. Try it again when you're ready. So pendiculate, reach long and squeeze. And then let that go. Maybe even a third one if you want. Do it at your own pace. And remember, before you come up, the first thing to do is bring the arms down. Brought the arms down. Bend the knees before you lift them. Get the knees bent again. Just the top knee only. Lifting just the top knee. That bottom knee will follow at some point in the movement. And then with arms at T position, slowly take both knees back to the left and then rise up and then over to the right. You might even choose to look right, left. And then you can look left while your knees go right. Try to roll on the head. So rolling on the back of the head like a rolling pin. Don't or sit. So rolling on the head, just like you're rolling from the back of the left buttock over the lumbar spine and sacrum to the back of the left other buttock. Next time you're back to center, bring your feet to the floor. For bridge pose, 2 things to start. 1, try not to have your feet super close to your butt. Slide your feet down a little bit So your knees are not directly over your ankles for this version of bridge. And then lips together, teeth apart, swallow, tongue to the roof of the mouth. Wait for the pause at the end of the exhale. And then whenever you're ready, after the pause, then you can begin to raise yourself up and lower yourself down. You could inhale on the way up and then pause at the top of bridge and then exhale on the way back down. Remember, after the exhale, you pause and rest, unstiffen before you rise again. So one pattern is inhaling up, pausing at the top and pausing at the bottom. And then the next time you've landed, pause and then inhale. Don't move yet. Do the inhale while you're on the ground. How about exhaling up now? And then pause at the top, bridge after the exhale, and then inhale down. What's it like to try to do the reverse pattern? Pausing at the top, pausing at the bottom. What's it like to exhale up versus inhale down? Neither's right, neither's wrong. It's just different options. You get to experience a different aspect of everything if you change the breathing pattern. Okay, next time your pelvis is landed, hug your right knee in towards you and straighten your left leg across the floor. It's called wind relieving pose or Pavanamuktasana. You can rock your bent knee a little away from your midline towards the side and then rock your knee closer to the midline. Make sure you're not hugging your knee so close to you that there's a pinching discomfort you're tolerating. Come on back to center with your knee. How about straighten and bend the knee a few times, foot towards the ceiling, and then foot back down. Um, I love when people do their own thing. You're welcome to keep doing your own thing. And we've got left leg on the floor and right leg in the air, so you can continue as you like. Next time you're straightening your knee, hold your knee straight. How about finding the four parts of the breath here? In the pauses, can you unstiffen any parts of your muscles that are working more than needed to be here? So you might hold your body in the shape, but you might also be working harder than you need to. Before you leave here, how about letting your foot make some small circles in the ceiling, like you're twirling the clouds with your toe tips? Would it be different if you tried to twirl the clouds with the pinky toe and the big toe, and both toes participate? What if you tried to circle the clouds with the spaces between the toes? Did you hold your breath to try that? Get your four parts back and reverse your circle. And your toes circle the other way around now. Big toe and pinky toe side of the foot participating. The spaces between the toes also participating. And then when you're ready from here, let your foot point and flex again. So bending your ankle each direction and then bend the knee each direction again. And then bend the knee and hug the leg back and towards you and rock your leg side to side. See how that feels now. Okay, the leg you're holding, keep holding it. The other leg, for me, it's the left leg. Bend its knee and put your foot on the floor. And now place the knee you're holding, place its foot on the other knee. So for me, it's right ankle on left knee. And then once you've got that, slow twist and take both legs in this triangular shape over to the right, and then back up, and then slowly over to the left. And so that's the movement. That's the Kriya. As you do this Kriya movement from one side to the other, can you still find the four parts of the breath? Maybe even remind yourself that Turiya is everywhere here. At certain points, as we do this simple movement side to side, your consciousness might be looking out in the world. You might be looking at objects in your room or watching your body move. Your consciousness, as you go from side to side, might be more inside. You're feeling the inner landscape. You're listening to the inner thought stream. You're aware of the emotional content. What would it be like to just be aware, not focused on anything specific inside or outside? You're just awareness in motion. Come on back to center. Same leg cross. Don't change it. Just pick your left foot up off the floor. Both hands, you're going to clasp them together behind your lefty. That means your right hand has to go between your thighs to get there. Some of you, this is enough. Some of you might want a little more. You could gently pull your legs a little closer to your rib cage. You might also choose to lift your head off the floor. Lips together, teeth apart, tongue on roof of mouth. The inhale is quiet and the exhale is gentle. So gentle, the exhale doesn't disturb the air outside your body. Especially if you're holding the head up, notice what happens when you get tired. Do you lose the pauses? Do you lose the quiet? Do you lose the gentle? Slowly, if you raised your head, place it on the floor. Don't clump it down. Go ahead and let go of your hands and let your leg uncross and put both feet back on the floor and just pause there for a moment. So remember, in our bridge prep, you don't want your heels directly under your knees. You don't want your heels close to your butt. For this version, slide your heels down a little bit. Try to keep your footprints flat on the floor as you raise yourself up into bridge and come on back down. Did you forget about the pauses? Can you be aware, are you choosing to inhale up or are you choosing to inhale down? Which of the patterns did you default to? Was it a choice or just what happened? And the next time you've landed, stay down on the ground for one half of the breath cycle. So now you can raise using the other half of the breath cycle. So before, if you were inhaling up, now can you exhale up? Take your time as you raise and lower from bridge. How's that right leg working compared to the left? Do you notice a difference in your sides here in bridge? How would you calibrate your awareness to notice what's similar and what's different? Next time you've lowered down, rest for just a moment there. Thumbs up, thumbs down. How y'all doing so far? Thanks for your feedback there. We're going to do the other side of Pavanmuktasana first. So you can hug your left knee in towards you and then straighten your right knee. If this is the side you already did, then just flip your rights and lefts. Do the opposite one this time. As you hug the other leg in, make sure you're not squeezing your thighs so close to your belly that it's uncomfortable to rock your knee to the midline and away from midline. Squeeze your knee in a little more than what you're doing. Notice there's kind of like that pinching compression kind of sensation. And then also, what about letting your knee be much further away from your belly? So you're not hugging your knee in close. What's it like to rock there? And then where's a good place? So between too close and too far, there's just right. Once you've rocked your legs side to side a few times, clasping your hands behind the knee joints, straighten and bend the knee a few times. Are you doing this with the breath? Maybe you can exhale it up, or maybe you'll inhale it up. Maybe you're just throwing your foot up and letting it come back down without associating the movement to the breathing. If we want to experience everything, then we want to know all the patterns. We want to know not the pattern as well as the pattern. Next time your foot's in the air, how about circling the clouds? Did you hold your breath to start circling your foot? And if you did you hold your breath in or did you hold it out? And you circle your foot this direction without clenching your teeth, without losing your pause. And when you reverse your circling and you go the other direction around, can you still know big toe and pinky toe? Can you know the webbings between the toes? As you circle your foot, do you feel any changes happening in your thigh near your pelvis or in the back of the knee? Did you have to hold your breath to consider that? How about point and flex again? So pointing your toes up and then pulling your foot downwards. How's that feel now? And then when you're ready, you can go ahead and re-bend and re-straighten the knee. Are you choosing to do the movement with the breath pattern or not? If you are choosing a breath pattern, are you choosing exhale up or did you choose inhale up? Next time you're bending your knee, just hug your knee back towards your belly again. Remember, there's too close, there's too far, and there's just right. Give your leg a little rocking side to side. Notice, does it feel a little different through the leg after holding the leg in the air? Especially if you're a little jet lagged and you've been on a long haul flight. How's it feel in your leg to help drain maybe some of the blood out of the tissues that might have been gotten stuck down there while you were sitting? Okay, figure four. So that's where you're still hold the same knee. The other leg, bend its knee, place your foot on the floor. The leg you're holding, place its foot on top of your bent knee. And then as you lift your right foot up off the floor, clasp your hands behind the left thigh or around, I'm sorry, clasp your hands behind the right thigh or around the right shin. You can do a little rocking here. What's that like? If you want, you might lift your head off of the floor. Using your chest and belly muscles, swallowing muscles. And you find the four parts of the breath. Maybe even close your eyes. Closing our eyes is pratyahara. It's the first step away from waking consciousness. We close the eyes, brings us more inside. Sustain your four-part breathing as you slowly, safely lower the head back down if you raised it. And then as you let go of your hands, let your right foot come back to the floor. Keep the figure four cross. And with your ankle still resting on one knee, go ahead and bring your legs together as a unit over to one side towards the floor. And then rise back up and head over to the other side. You might keep the arms beside you or out at T position. You might even want to bring the arms up into a V position past the head. You can also look left when your legs go to the right. And you can roll on the back of the head. Find the breath cycle here. Maybe pause before you lift up again. Take your time as you go from one side to the other, allowing the rest, allowing the receiving. Next time your legs are back up, uncrossing your ankle, 2 feet back to the floor. Remember, for bridge pose, this version of it, heels not super close to your buttocks. Feel your entire footprint staying in contact with the floor as you rise up and as you lower down. The next time you're rising up, stay up for a little bit longer before you come back down. And the next time you've lowered down, stay down a little longer before you rise up. In the pauses, unstiffen body muscles that don't need to be working in that position. Make sure when you're on the ground, you're fully disengaged before rising again. And make sure at the top you unstiffen any excess so you're not working your muscles more than necessary to be here. The next time you've lowered yourself down to the floor, rest there. You can straighten your legs. Maybe take the arms and the legs into an X shape. And let your eyes close if that feels safe. If it doesn't feel safe, soft gaze, maybe gazing between the eyelashes. Every breath has 4 parts. And you feel and experience the rest present after the exhale. And can you notice that rest and softness? Pause and the exhale. Looking for something that's difficult to perceive. Trying to stay connected to the resting state when you're in the doing state. What if our goal for practice is to become better aware of a state? The rest state of the exhale is present while we're inhaling and pausing and exhaling. Lips together, teeth apart. You swallow, tongue remains on the roof of the mouth. In your mind's eye, you visualize the symbol for Om. It's like the number 3, that extra curve and the little dot. Take 60 seconds here in silence. Note the end of this 60-second bracket. Go ahead and let your fingers and your hands have a little movement. And then let go of the movement again. In waking consciousness, our attention's directed outside of ourselves. In dreaming consciousness, our attention is directed inwards. In the third state, prajna, we're inward, but we're not busy with what's happening. Fourth state, present, inward. And when you're ready, let your eyes open. Blink as many times as you need. Blink slowly and gently until you get to a place where you can let your eyes be open with a soft gaze on the ceiling. Part of you is out in waking consciousness. And even though you're out in waking consciousness, can you still feel that awareness of inner consciousness, inwardness? And maybe, hopefully, you feel a little bit of the echo of just being present, just being aware. And you're still part of Turiya. It hasn't left. Turiya is never not. Once your eyes are more comfortably opened, you can let your hands and your fingers open and close. Maybe stretch and circle your ankles. You can go ahead and bend your knees. Bring your hands up and clasp opposite elbows with your arms. Take your face and your elbows together over the left. With your 2 feet on the floor, take your knees towards the right. Come on back up, face and elbows to the right. All 2 knees go left. Easy movement to wake you up here. Next time you have knees one way and arms the other, just go ahead and pause there. Find the breath cycle there with knees over at one side and arms at the opposite. And you find the states of consciousness here. You're aware of what's outside of you. You're aware of what's inside of you. You're aware of awareness. You are awareness. Take your time, let your head come back up, and then together bring your arms up. Just the top knee by itself, lift it up, and then the other knee, and then go slowly side to side. What's it like to go to the opposite side and then slowly rise up, and then return to the side you held? What do you notice by going back and forth? A felt knowing, a felt sense of yourself, not just the words to describe it, but the feeling of what is it like when you go to the side you held? What is it like returning to the side you've not yet held? And then one of these times, stay on the side that you've not yet held. Lips together, teeth apart, maybe swallow, tongue to the roof of the mouth. Every breath has 4 parts, and we start with the pause before we inhale. Then we inhale and pause to receive. Gently exhale. Pause to allow. Quiet inhale. Pause to receive. Gentle exhale. Pause to allow. When you're ready, let your head come on back up, and then together bring both arms up. The top leg rises and eventually the bottom leg follows. And then once again, Kriya towards each side. What's it like to go back to the first side? And then return to the second side. How's it different now? A felt knowing, not just the words that describe what you know, but the feeling sense of what is known here. And then when you're ready, take both arms over to the same side. You can roll yourself up to hands and knees. Give yourself a little bit of movement there. And then in your own time, you can go ahead and bring yourself in close. Come on back. And as you come on back, you're welcome to unmute yourself at this point. Any comments or questions or experiences you'd like to share? This would be time for that. Anybody? Bueller? Did you have an experience? It's kind of unfair guiding you to a deep place and then asking you to talk about it.
Very calming. Good read.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Okay. Well, that is what I have for you this evening. Thank you so much for participating. If you're not on my Substack yet, please go check it out. More things will be happening there over these next weeks. And I'm so happy to see all of you. Thanks for joining tonight. Thumbs up, thumbs down. This is good for you this evening. Awesome. Okay. Thank you so much. I'll see y'all again next time. Take care.